Number 7. The Only Fan Stalker. In February 2022, 20-year-old Mauricio Damian Guerrero snuck into the home of an unnamed 24-year-old OnlyFans model, stayed there for 2 days, and took pictures and videos of her while she slept. This was the last of 5 secret visits he made to her home. They began communicating in 2021 through the adult site, and it was later revealed that the victim herself gave him her address while she was intoxicated. After refusing to meet Guerrero multiple times, the victim, who is only referred to as NR in court documents, apparently had intimate relations with him on one occasion. However, she stated that he pressured her into the encounter and that she did not want to meet him again. Eventually, Guerrero obtained the keys to her New Hampshire home, making several copies that allowed him to enter the premises whenever he liked. The perpetrator filmed at least one clip of the victim's private parts during his stalking spree. Though she could not confirm his presence, the victim suspected that someone was hiding in her house after finding half-eaten food, a pair of AirPods, and a cup full of urine in her attic. She eventually caught him red-handed when her mother heard a noise upstairs on February 9, 2022. They immediately called the police, who located the perpetrator on the roof trying to make his escape. After being arrested, the culprit admitted that he broke into her house the first time to retrieve a TV he had bought for her as a gift. Apparently, her refusal to meet rubbed him the wrong way, and he wanted to take back the present to punish her. He also revealed his intentions to place a GPS tracker in the victim's car, indicating that his stalking campaign was about to escalate. Once he found himself in her home, his sick voyeuristic fantasies spiraled out of control, and on one occasion he even stole the victim's underwear. As a result, he was charged with 5 counts of felony burglary and 2 counts of invasion of privacy. On May 11, 2023, Guerrero took the stand during his trial. He started off by claiming the victim wanted someone to be obsessed with her and that she enjoyed being stalked. He went on to read text messages he had exchanged with the victim, several of which involved her admitting a romantic attachment to the culprit, and stated that he was in love with her too. At one point, the culprit even burst into tears while giving his testimony. It was quite clear that he had a tenuous grasp on reality, since he believed that he and the victim were in a romantic relationship. On May 16th, 5 days after giving his frightening testimony, Guerrero was declared guilty on 2 counts of burglary, with the other 3 reduced to criminal trespass, and 1 of the 2 counts of privacy violation. His sentence was not revealed to the public, but the burglary charges alone carry a maximum penalty of 11 years. The culprit will also have to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. Number 6. Meltdown on a plane. On July 2nd, 2023, 38-year-old Tiffany Gomez delayed an American Airlines flight for 3 hours after bizarrely claiming that a man in the back was not real. A video of the meltdown was posted all over social media, and her fellow passengers could be seen turning their heads and trying to get a look at where she was pointing. No one could see anything out of the ordinary, but the flight was nevertheless grounded and deplaned since Gomez was refusing to stay on board. One possible explanation for this outburst is the hectic 4th of July weekend. 100 flights were cancelled and hundreds more were delayed, which might have put her under enormous stress and led to a mental breakdown. Her behavior also seems to suggest that she was in a paranoid state of mind, especially when she went on to say that everyone on the plane would die if they stayed on board. The airline decided not to pursue any action against her, chalking it up to a case of nerves, and she did later go on to make a tearful apology. 2 months after this incident, Gomez was spotted boarding another flight at LAX. She had clearly recovered from her nervous breakdown, but when asked what it was that she saw, she refused to comment on it. All she said was that she stood by her decision to leave the plane. Number 5. Delusional Incel. In June 2022, Jacob Yerkes, an employee at Cracker Barrel, began stalking one of his co-workers in an escalating series of encounters. The Tennessee man was apparently a delusional incel that became obsessed with the unnamed victim. He even wrote her a song, despite her rejecting his advances, and claimed he just wanted to play it for her when she started running away from him. Rather than taking the hint, Jacob decided to chase her down the street. The crazed stalker made it all the way to the woman's apartment building off Highway 321, and he might have tried to enter the building if police officers had not arrived. When he was asked about his behavior, Jacob claimed he chased after the victim because he believed that women were crazy and that they enjoyed being stalked. He went on to say that the woman was a member of the LGBT community and that he wrote her a song so that she could choose to be with him. He clearly did not know how to take no for an answer, since even the arrival of police could not help him see the error of his ways. Police told him to stay away from the woman, but Jacob did not relent. A later investigation revealed several threatening videos on social media that showed his belief in extreme incel ideology, some of which involved him stating that women secretly wanted to be assaulted. The seriousness of his actions led the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to get involved, and on November 8th, Jacob was finally arrested and charged with stalking and harassment. Do you think police acted quickly enough with Jacob Yerkes? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 4. Plucked out eyeballs. In December 2016, 37-year-old Ryan Partridge gouged out his own eyeballs while serving time at Boulder County Jail. The inmate apparently experienced a psychotic break, and evidence suggests that prison staff might be to blame. Partridge, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, believed that the CIA was trying to make him self-harm. Such a severe mental disorder should have garnered him some sympathy from the jail staff. Instead, they placed him in solitary confinement and even beat him on one occasion while he was completely naked. The staff was ill-equipped to deal with his mental state, especially when he refused to take medication after assuming it was poison. Nevertheless, their actions made his condition even worse, and Partridge eventually reached the breaking point when he started tearing out his own eyeballs. The incident left him blind, and Partridge stated that he would not have gone to such extreme lengths if prison staff had not confined him in solitary. This was not the first time he had tried to self-harm, since he had previously tried to take his own life by jumping from the prison's second floor, smashing his face with a sledgehammer, and breaking several of his teeth against a toilet. His family sued the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, and they received over $2.5 million in compensation in 2017. This incident revealed just how poor conditions can be for inmates with mental illnesses. Number 3. Hallucination leads to homicide. On March 3, 2020, 19-year-old Sydney Powell stabbed her own mother 24 times and beat her with a cast iron skillet after experiencing hallucinations and psychosis. The victim, Brenda Powell, was a respected member of the Akron community, having worked at a children's cancer hospital for several years. She later died of her wounds, and though police brought the culprit in due to the mountain of evidence, they struggled to find a motive for the killing. By all appearances, the culprit was a well-adjusted girl who had been on the high school honor roll before graduating with a 3.8 GPA. However, it turned out that her mental health began declining the moment she entered college. Though no one knew it at the time, Sydney was going through undiagnosed schizophrenia. This not only led to her getting dismissed from college, but it also resulted in her unleashing a violent frenzy on her mother. She tried to keep it a secret for a few months, but her mother eventually found out on the day of the incident. Reports state that Brenda was on the phone with school administrators when a shouting match erupted between her and Sydney. This eventually escalated into a homicidal encounter, and Brenda was left writhing on the floor with 24 stab wounds across her body. The culprit's father implored the jury for a not guilty verdict, and her lawyers tried to get her off the hook by pleading insanity. Despite this, Sydney was sentenced to life in prison on September 28, 2023. She will be up for parole in 15 years. Number 2. The 82nd shooting. On January 6, 2017, 26-year-old Esteban Santiago Ruiz began a shooting spree at Fort Lauderdale Airport that lasted just 80 seconds, but left 5 people dead and 42 injured. The culprit flew in from Alaska specifically for the attack, initiating the spree at 12:53 p.m. The gun had been purchased and passed through baggage claim legally, raising massive concerns about gun control in America. 6 people were injured due to gunfire, with dozens more sustaining injuries in the ensuing panic. After completing his attack, the shooter lay down and waited to be apprehended. Luckily, a Broward County Sheriff's deputy was nearby, and he was able to take the killer into custody approximately 85 seconds after the incident began. All flights were grounded as police tried to learn what happened, and it is estimated that 20,000 pieces of baggage were left behind in the chaos. The shooter was later revealed to be a former member of the Alaskan and Puerto Rican National Guard. He had even participated in the Iraq War as a combat engineer between April 23, 2010 and February 19, 2011. Though he attained the rank of Private First Class and received 10 honors during his stint in the military, he was also discharged from the Alaskan Army National Guard for unsatisfactory performance on August 16, 2015. He had a history of erratic behavior, including a 2012 incident where Puerto Rico police confiscated his firearms. In January 2016, Ruiz was arrested after assaulting his girlfriend. The perpetrator had apparently broken down her door and choked her, and he might have ended up behind bars had the prosecution not been deferred. His mental health continued to deteriorate in 2016, and in November, he headed to an FBI field office to claim that the CIA was using mind control to force him to join the Islamic State terrorist organization. He also claimed to hear voices in his head that wanted him to commit violence, but assured FBI officers that he would not act on these demands. 2 months later, Ruiz seemingly gave into the voices in his head. FBI officials did not take him seriously when he went to the field office, nor did police officers who had arrested him during his violent escalation over the past few years. The culprit was diagnosed with schizophrenia while he was on trial, and he pleaded guilty to escape the death penalty. On August 17, 2018, Ruiz was sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences, plus 120 years, and he will spend the rest of his life in the maximum security United States Penitentiary in Tucson. Number 1. Obsessed with a politician. In the early hours of January 8, 2011, U.S. Representative Gabby Giffords held a meeting with her constituents at the La Toscana Village Mall in Tucson, Arizona. This was when 22-year-old Jared Lee Loeffner, with a semi-automatic pistol, began a shooting spree that would leave 6 dead and 15 injured. The perpetrator was living with his parents at the time, some 5 miles away from the location of the incident. Following multiple complaints from teachers and students, he had been suspended from Pima Community College on September 29, 2010. In October, he chose to drop out entirely when the college asked him to agree to a mental health evaluation to rejoin. It was later revealed that the culprit became obsessed with Giffords after meeting her at a 2007 event. His mental state worsened over the next few years, with the culprit posting bizarre views on MySpace and YouTube. He believed that the government was brainwashing people with so-called neuro-linguistic programming, as well as several other conspiracy theories. On November 30th, he headed to a sporting goods store in Tucson, where he purchased a Glock 19. He apparently faced no trouble passing the background check, and he spent the next few weeks lying low. The attack began at approximately 10:10 a.m. on January 8th, with the culprit approaching Giffords and shooting her in the head. He followed this by firing 31 rounds into the crowd at random before stopping to reload, but when he dropped the magazine, one bystander snatched it away from him while another injured his elbow with a folding chair. Eventually, a 74-year-old retired colonel named Bill Badger tackled the shooter to the ground, despite having been shot. Though Giffords miraculously survived the encounter, she suffered severe brain damage and had to resign in January 2012. What's more, 6 people, including a federal judge named John Roll, lost their lives in the sudden display of violence. Police arrived at 10:15 and quickly took Loeffner into custody at the Pima County Sheriff's Office, where he immediately pled the Fifth. An investigation revealed that Loeffner had written extensively about the attack, planning it as an assassination. They also found a letter of thanks from the 2007 meet and greet, showing the culprit's twisted obsession with Giffords. On January 19, 2011, he was indicted on 3 counts of attempted assassination, as well as 46 additional counts of homicide and attempted homicide. The chilling photo of him smiling after his arrest clearly showed that he was delusional, and sure enough, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia on May 25th and deemed unfit to stand trial. A judge ordered that he be forcibly medicated and held at a mental health facility, and he was declared fit for trial after a year, on November 8, 2012, nearly 2 years after he purchased the weapon. Loeffner finally received 7 life sentences, plus 140 years, all without the possibility of parole. Which of these delusional criminals shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.